Yeah, thank you. So yeah, thanks everyone for setting up this conference. Pretty exciting so far. Today myself, I will be talking about a great team building activity that we have been using. It's called Social Time. So yeah, let's go into that. First, a bit more about me. So I've been working in the software development world for about 19 years. The last 10, I've been working fully remotely. Currently, I'm the VP of Engineering at Wellthon. We are a smart startup, fully remote. I'm also doing a bit of mentoring on the Plateau platform. Again, mostly around remote work and managing remote teams. Talking about that team building activity, Social Time, it's quite simple actually, but a lot of value comes from the simplicity itself. So it's just 3 things. 1 question per week. So each week we have a question that gets asked to the whole company. Then we have a group discussion that goes with that too. And then we also have a random one-on-one that reuse the same question. So it's really just those 3 steps, basically. 1 question, then everybody can talk about that in a small group, and then we team up one-on-one to further discuss. At a high level, that's basically that. So I could, in a sense, end my talk here, and that would be fine, but I will explain a bit more so you get a better idea of why it is useful and how we actually use it. So the 1 question per week, the idea is really to take something that is non-work related and not controversial too. So, I mean, the goal is not to start fights, but really to just get to know each other a bit over time. So just 1 question, it's not too much. Can be really anything. Just put in the slides a few examples that we have been using. Some are open question, like do you collect anything, favorite quote, but other are easier even. So just what is your favorite between Pepsi or Coke? Or do you like daylight saving, or you would prefer to stick with regular time the year round? Stuff like that. Anything that can be used as an icebreaker question is actually most of the time, a good question for that too. And again, and I'm checking the Twist chat as we go. So if you have questions, feel free to type them in. I will try to answer quickly. Yeah, so the goal is really just to have a variety of questions, and since you ask one every week, over time you end up learning a lot about everybody in the team. So, and also one important fact is we ask those questions using our chat tool. And that could be Slack. Ourselves, we use Twist, but anything. If you are even using email, that works with email too. People can answer them whenever they have the time. So you see the answer coming in slowly. As long as the answer are all in before the group discussion, that's good. But having a lot of time between the two help with people, depending on how many time zone your team crossover, allowing people to answer those questions asynchronously is kind of pretty useful for that. So it works well even if you have cover a lot of different time zones. So that's the question. After that, so let's say ourselves, we do that like on Monday morning, we'll have 1 question asked for a team. Then later during the week, we do a company-wide meeting. And we basically, it's not work related, so that's why we call it Social Time. So the goal of that group discussion is just to chat about anything non-work related. But the question that we did ask serve as a great lead into that discussion. So you don't have to wonder what you should be talking about. I mean, of course, sometimes someone come and start start talking about something else, and that's fine too. There is no reason to mandate having a thoughtful, like 30-minute discussion about daylight saving time. But like the idea of the question is that it serves as a good lead into the discussion. So if you don't know what to talk about, then yeah, just take the question. And usually if somebody forgot to answer the question, we can put that person on the spot. They have to answer live. Otherwise, like whatever, pick, you can do a round table. Everybody can say a bit more about their answer, or you can just pinpoint interesting answer. Try to have, like, over time, everybody talk, whatever fits for you, whatever fit the size of your team. So again, initially when we started that at Wellthon, we were just 6 people. So we were basically just like everybody had the time to talk about their answer. That was doable. But now we are 12 people. And if we want to keep that meeting to 30 minutes or less, then you cannot always have everybody like talk 5 minutes about why they do like pineapple on their pizza. So you have to figure out pattern that suits for you. But yeah, that's the group discussion part. So since it's face-to-face, using video call might be a bit less suited if you are really covering all the time zones. But it's not our case, so we all have time zone that have some overlaps, so we can do that. And it's good to be able to at least once a week see everybody else, be able to chat with them, see their face, and get a bit more human connection happening, instead of just talking about bugs and which next feature you need to build and whatnot. And then at the end of the group discussion, this is where we move to the third part of this activity, is a random one-on-one. So basically, yeah, as the name implies, we just randomly pair everybody. And pair, if you are cannot have pair, it can be 3 people, that's fine too. But the idea is to split. Some people are more comfortable discussing in smaller settings, so just with one person. Other people prefer a large group, but having this group discussion and then breaking into individual one-on-one allow to fit a bit more everybody's preference. Also, it gives a great opportunity to talk one-on-one with someone that you don't necessarily interact with on a daily basis at work. Frequently, engineers, they talk with each other, they might talk with product, but they don't necessarily talk that much with marketing team or finance, whatever. So especially if you have a hybrid setup or fully remote, because you don't see people over lunch, you don't see people at the coffee machine. So this creates the opportunity to talk with other people that you don't necessarily talk with. Again, it's not required to use the question into that discussion, but when you have 2 people that are not necessarily like more introvert, not necessarily know what they should be talking about or how to start a conversation with basically a stranger, at least initially, having that question again serve as making sure everybody has something to talk about, and there is no awkward moment of just wondering what you should be doing. Yeah, so random one-on-one. Yeah, that's all that. So that's basically the idea here. So we have that one question, we have the group, and then we have one-on-one. Is it worth it? I mean, for us, definitely, we have been doing that, and it's really great. A few good benefits from that team building. I mean, beside the fact that it's super simple, doesn't require anything, and you can get running with whatever tools you have. It allows you to build knowledge of each other on the team over time. So it's not like intense 1 week, we all get to meet each other, and at the end, yes, you know everybody, but that's not always possible. Doing that, you end up learning about people a little bit over time, so it's not overwhelming. It suits well with introvert people too, but even extrovert. I mean, you can chat with others, so that fits for everybody. But it kind of builds that knowledge over time. It's also a fun activity, especially if you pick your question correct. So sometimes it's always fun, but sometimes there is a bit less laugh. Like if you ask about what's your favorite quote or who is someone that influenced you in your life, sometimes it takes a while just to figure out the answer to that. So, and then you discuss that. I mean, it's interesting, but it's not necessarily laughing or fun in that sense. But like pineapple on the pizza, again, that was a good one. Or did you won your Super Bowl? So for people in the US or even Canada, like the Super Bowl is always something. So like have people laugh and like kind of argue about something that is not that meaningful, it end up being a fun activity. Also, since all the questions are being answered on the chat tool, in our case, again, Twist, you actually create a record of that. And in a way, you end up creating a profile of all the employee in your company or in your team. So you can go back and see like, oh, that question, what people answered. So when someone new come and join the company, he doesn't know anyone yet. If he is working remotely, cannot even see people on the one, necessarily everybody, cannot meet with them over a coffee or whatever, but they can just go on the Slack or Twist or the chat tool, see all the previous question and read, and even before they will have met you, they will know a bit more about you, about everybody on the team. They might find some stuff that they both enjoy. So then the first time you talk with someone, you can say, oh, hey, you're also doing kiteboarding. I like kite too. So like whatever, you end up learning quickly about everybody on your team. Then your employee can also just go in there and answer, even if it's not this week's question, the person can go and just answer like a bunch of questions. So the same happen on the other side. The people, existing employees, the existing team end up learning a lot about that new employee, even before having first talked to them. So especially important, again, when you have remote people, because it takes a bit longer to build a human connection, to break the ice, because you don't see necessarily you don't see each other that as frequently as if you were in an office. So doing that is an easy way to do that. So definitely think it's worth it. And yeah, so for us at Wellthon, I think I mentioned like we are 12 people, we are 100% remote. It has been working really well. We have been doing that for, I think we have like 36 questions now. So whatever, how many months that is. So that's been a while. Everybody is still enjoying it. Of course, sometimes there is some questions that are more interesting than other, but honestly, it's kind of hard to guess upfront which question will lead to good discussion. Like again, pineapple pizza question, that one ended up being kind of pretty good, even if it seems a bit silly initially. Ended up talking about food and why food is good with what and different habits of people everywhere. So that was pretty interesting in the end, even if initially you can think, I mean, that's kind of a nonsense question and like beside everybody saying yes or no, that's the end of it. But no, the conversation did happen. As we scale, I mean, looking at how we can, because we have good success with this activity, looking at how we can keep doing that as the team will grow. So the weekly question, I think that can scale for pretty much any size. I mean, even if you have 500 people, you can always like post question on Slack and have everybody answer. So as long as you have a good setup that doesn't spam notify everybody all the time, that's pretty good. So there is no limit to that and can still work great. The random one-on-one definitely scale as well. Of course, as you have more people, the odds of like meeting someone in particular or keep seeing the same person will reduce, but otherwise there is no technical limitation to doing that. So we will definitely keep doing that over time. The question is about the group chat. Honestly, right now, 12 people. and we're trying to limit that group discussion to like between 15 to 30 minutes, but more toward the 15-minute size. With 12 people is still doable, but definitely not possible to do that with like 50 people. So anyway, a 50 people meeting is usually pretty non-productive in any way. So we'll have to figure out another way to do that. Like we could split the whole team and like do random groups. So split the team into different groups and they talk, and every week you end up with different groups. So that could work. But maybe we'll just decide to do something else, because with more people, there is also more opportunity, stuff you could do. So you could start having interest groups. So maybe we could have a group that just discuss about kiteboarding, or a group that just discuss about Star Trek. So we don't necessarily need to do as much forced group discussion, because this might be happening organically anyway within the organization. So group chat, not something that can definitely scale, at least in the same form as it is. But otherwise, you can scale that. And also, both in terms of how many people, but also if you have fully remote, hybrid team, even across multiple time zone, that work pretty well. And I think, yeah, that's about it. So if you have any question, you cannot ask them, but you can always type in Twist if you have an account in there. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to talk about remote work or random stuff too. So find me on any platform whenever you want. Thanks.